We always had some form of management. It has been part of our anthropological development. Personally, I believe there's a correlation between spiral dynamics, the model of spiral dynamics of Claire Graves, and how we tackle tough problems. As we matured, we adjusted our ways of governing. On the other hand, the complexity of the problems to solve has increased as well. The combination of both necessitated a change in the way we manage. Now, starting with the Industrial Revolution of 1770 to the age of steam and railways in around 1830 to the steel and heavy engineering time around 1875 to oil and mass production around 1908, our technology has dramatically improved. Now, each one of those steps, which I just have mentioned, or leaps, as you can think about it, lasted for around 50 years. Now, building on top of the last one in the 1970s, we entered the digital age. And now another 15 years have come to an end. What are the next 50 years about? My bet is on artificial intelligence. Now, through our technology advancements, we have been empowered to address even more complex problems. Our way of managing has been heavily influenced by the work of Frederick Winslow Taylor, who coined the term scientific management. Now, what did he do? He analyzed work motion, introduced standardized work practices, and an incentive-based pay. Henry Vayol based his management approach on administrative theory based around functions, planning, designing, and so on. Max Weber believed in the bureaucratic management approach by establishing clear hierarchies and structures based on authority. Now, in short, classical management, what we have seen until the 70s or even further, is based on hierarchy, division of labor, centralization, formal rules and procedures, and rationality. Now, these approaches worked well until we entered the age of software and digitalization. Now, interestingly, as early as 1970, when Dr. Winston Royce mentioned that the old ways of working don't work, and he mentioned this in his paper, Managing the Development of Large Software Systems. On page 2 at the top, he said, first of all, he was describing the classical approach of working. And then he said, I believe in this concept, but the implementation described above, classical waterfall, is risky and invites failure. Now, sadly, nobody read the paper, or most of them who read it, they looked at the beginning of the paper, they got the confirmation, it's waterfall, it's the classical way, and they never finished it. Because then in the next 5 pages, he really elaborates about how we have to tackle software problems, which was surprisingly close, if you think about it conceptually, to how we work today. Now, based on this wrong understanding of this paper from Dr. Winston Royce, the US Department of Defense created the DoD STD 2167 in 1985, which didn't work so well. It was updated in 1988 with 2167A because they lost billions of dollars, and finally replaced in 1994 with the standard MIL STD 498. Now, this approach allowed a different way of working than classical linear waterfall. On the modern way of working, in 1986, the paper from Takeuchi Inonaka, the new product development game, opened the doors for focus and product and value. So Nonaka and Takeuchi, they analyzed 6 products which were highly successful, and they figured out what was different in there. Then in 1991, rapid application development, RAD, was pushed, which was then followed in 96 through extreme programming. Around the same time, Scrum was shown to the public in 1995 at the UPSLA conference in Austin, Texas. Now, all of this together, the Takeuchi Nonaka white paper, extreme programming, rapid application development, Scrum, the emerging ideas, combined with complexity theory, based on the works of Dave Snowden and the resulting paper, Harvard Business Review, the new leaders framework for decision making, opened the doors and brought everything essentially together. Now, how does this really compare to traditional project management, what we often refer to as waterfall? Traditional project management, often what we call waterfall, is described through well-defined structures, phases like planning, analysis, design, implementation, testing. Now, based on detailed upfront planning, we focus on predictability, clear documentation, strong control through layers of hierarchy. Again, this worked well a long time for work we could understand, analyze better. However, now it doesn't suffice anymore. And I think that the late Peter Drucker has been paramount in changing the way what project management could be. He died in 2006, if I remember correctly. He wrote about it in books in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and so on. He was active until his last years. Now, his works included elements like customer focus, continuous improvement, empowerment, and decentralization, adaptability and flexibility, and a strong focus on knowledge work and innovation. Now, how does this all tie back to Agile product development? Now, even though Agile was developed in the 1990s, we all associate Agile with the Agile Manifesto, which was created in February 2001. Actually, if you think about it, this manifesto provided the umbrella term Agile for everything we call Agile these days. Before that, we called it Scrum, Extreme Programming, EDO, Crystal, and so on. Now, the Agile Manifesto has those 4 values where we say individuals and interactions are more important than processes and tools. We have both sides. Now, we have processes and tools, but the emphasis is on individuals and interactions. Working product over comprehensive documentation. Documentation is important, and people often say in Agile we don't have documentation. That is wrong. We have documentation, but we have only the type of documentation we really need, and we do this one really well. But in the end of the day, what matters is working product. Customer collaboration over contract negotiation. Often our contract or the way we work is really set up to minimize variation, because why? Variation makes our lives hard. We want to fix that by minimizing that. But now Agile turns this around. It just say, hey, you changed your mind? Great. Now we need just to talk about it and figure out what this means, how we can handle that. What are the trade-offs? What is possible? Now, seeking conversation, active stakeholder user management. And all of this basically leads to responding to change over following a plan. Now, this is the Agile Manifesto, but then going a step further, Agile is also about iterative and incremental development. Instead of planning everything up front, we take always a little bit and small increment, a smaller goal, and we work on that again and again. And hopefully at the end of every of those iterations, we have a smaller version of a product, which we then integrate into the bigger one, but we learn from that and we can make adjustments accordingly. Now, this allows for the next point, continuous feedback and improvement. Once we can show something to our customers, they often say, oh, well, now since I see it, I have another idea. And instead of saying, oh, no, this is a change request, this is expensive, we can just say, okay, let's talk. Let's figure out what this means, what options we have. Now, instead of division of labor, what we know from classical management, it's really about cross-functional teams bringing all the skills we need to build the final product, but also different mindsets, attitudes, past experiences. The more diverse the team is, in my opinion, the better they will work, function together. All of this is also based on the idea of sustainable development, getting away from this thought that people are like human resources which can be swapped out. Every person brings a strength to the team, and we want to make sure that the whole team as a entity can work together for a really long time without burning out. This is also based on a strong focus on value and high quality. Because if we don't deliver the value to our users, and if we don't have the quality underneath to sustain the value in the long run, things will start to crumble and fall apart in the long run. In the software, we often talk about technical debt. And all of this is really based on a transparent and visible progress. Now, if you compare that with what I just mentioned about classical project management, it is pretty much the opposite of hierarchy, division of labor, centralizations, and formal rules and procedures, because we entrust a cross-functional team with a clear goal that they can act on that and deliver something valuable based on continuous feedback and problems. Now, once the problem to solve is complex, just to wrap everything up. So once the problem we solve is complex, and complex basically means you cannot know everything up front, even if you really think hard. You will have to establish feedback loops. And through these feedback loops, you will get transparency, which allows you to look at what you have and see if there's any deviation. And this then allows you to do the adaptations which are needed. And through this, your new understanding emerges, and you have new data on which you can base decisions going forward, iteration by iteration.